The following video does not glorify or encourage or incite violence. This is a cautionary tale from Australia. For those of you who don't know, the laws in Australia are very different than anywhere else on the planet, and if you're from the United States, you need to look them up before even watching the video. In 2015, Gareth Daniel Train and Stacey Jane Train, his wife and apparently an academic or a college teacher, recently or back then even, or high school teacher, had spent upwards of $100,000 on a piece of property in, I can't pronounce it correctly, but it's at 251 Wains Road Wieambilla, Queensland, Australia. 2021, Stacey resigned ostensibly due to teacher vaccination mandates, and also stated to her cohorts and co-workers that she and someone she was going to be with had built up a nest egg to where they really wouldn't need to work for a very long time. That same year, her former husband and Gareth's brother, Nathaniel Train, who was also an academic, he was a principal at schools, had a heart attack. This caused a lot of tension at the time, and there was tension between all of them at one time. Anyway, Nathaniel got better. All three of these had grown up in conservative religious families. Gareth recently became a conspiracy theorist, and depending on where you look up the writings, because the first thing everybody does is erase what the person actually said, you're going to be seeing cut and paste and third-hand accounts of what he said, but it all seems fairly consistent with what on the internet we consider a stereotypical conspiracy theorist who's gone headfirst into it. Nathaniel had been unavailable for communication since October 2022. So, on the 12th of this month at 4:30 p.m., since this is the nearest relative besides the dad who hadn't seen Nathaniel, a welfare check visit to the house of his brother's house, was made to try to locate missing Nathaniel Train. 4 police officers showed up in 2 vehicles. After a 900-foot access path from the main road, that's not on Google Street View, by the way, and a 300-foot somewhat straight driveway, which is not necessarily a line of sight straight driveway, they stopped at a locked gate that's approximately 70 feet away from the front door on the north side of the building. And they were more towards the east. They honked their horn to alert the residents and wait for them to come out. When nothing happened, all 4 officers got out of their cars and approached the gate. The 2 youngest ones jumped over the gate. The residents almost immediately opened fire and hit 3 of the 4 people, the police officers that were there. One of them ran and hid in the bushes. One got into a vehicle and drove away, wounded. The other 2 that were hit were then killed by the residents of the building coming up and just shooting them on the ground where they were. They then set the area on fire to flush out the police officer that was hiding, that was uninjured at the time, meaning that the individual couldn't lift up their head or point a gun or do anything because they would have been immediately in the open and shot. A neighbor saw the fire and smoke and heard the shots and came out and ended up getting shot in the back. That happened by 5 p.m. By 10:30 p.m., 16 or more police officers were at the scene and breached the house, and so a principal, a teacher, and a conspiracy theorist were dead after a 6-hour shootout and or standoff, mostly a shootout. Now, why is this a cautionary tale? I'm going to bring everybody up to speed on this, but again, I am not advocating for violence, glorifying it, or saying that these individuals are somehow heroes or anything like that. I'm also going to say that I don't buy the idea, if anybody brings it up, that they were responding to someone breaching their gate. Plenty of warning, it's obviously police, and that might have been in their heads a good reason to shoot, but it isn't. In any country I know of, that is not a valid reason to fire. And until we get some CCTV video or body cam video otherwise. This is what we've all been told. And again, the rantings and ravings of Gareth Daniel Train on the internet indicate strongly that under the laws in that country, he probably should have been, quote, red flagged, as we call it here, and or forbidden from having access to firearms. But there is no indication or statement anywhere that any of these people before this date at 4:30 p.m. had done anything illegal. There is no indication that they would ever have a reason to throw away a hunk of property that's worth $100,000 probably right now, that's a homestead, that's isolated, that's private, that's safe, that has everything they need, solar panels, water, a garden maybe, in an area that, when you look at it from a map, it looks sparse, but it's surrounded by trees and is obviously able to hold life and has a dam not too far away that they can get water from. In fact, that may be theirs. This is a group of 3 people, 2 brothers and a lady, that had what a lot of people in this country would absolutely die for. They would love to have it. And there's no indication that I can see anywhere, other than in Gareth's mind, that somebody was going to try to take it away from them. The more you have, the more paranoid you might become, possibly. You can see this in the eyes and in the actions of very rich people who flip out about every little thing, who are terrified of you being near their building or in their neighborhood because they see everything in the world as a threat because they gained so much and maybe don't feel worthy of it. These individuals do not match that. These are individuals that had every reason to do nothing. Unless there's some strong indication of an attack, and I mean overt, obvious, everybody can check it and confirm it, there is no reason for this to have occurred. And I'm going to bring up something pretty simple. Conservative, religious upbringing people who are brought up in a world, if they were evangelicals, to believe that half the world's out to get you and you have to save them from themselves, but you're told that it's okay to do unto others before they do unto you. The father of the 2 men doesn't want to talk about any of this. He's just saying, I've lost two sons. He doesn't want to talk about it. And I don't blame it on the society in Australia where apparently Gareth was blaming lockdowns. And even some people have decided to make that the issue. That's not the issue. This is a cautionary tale for anybody out there who is a homesteader, self-sufficient, isolated, maybe alone, maybe stuck with your own thoughts. These individuals, by any measure, without any more data, had everything needed to be happy and had the dead space between them and society that they could easily breach to go get groceries or get medical help or get some new stuff or go work if they wanted to. These individuals did not have a reality that would tell me to be extra paranoid, that would tell a normal person to be fearful of everything. They ended up shooting their own neighbor. No, I don't believe the lady hiding in the burning grass was shooting at anybody. I don't believe she shot anybody in the back. I don't think so. I don't think that the other police officer could have done it, but until we have more data, I don't believe so. Could this just been Gareth firing and the others got caught and were assumed to be guilty? I don't know. We don't have access to all of the data yet. Now, bringing up the meme of wellness checks in the United States. There are several incidents where police will get away with saying they were doing a wellness check or even get a permit for it or writ or whatever from a judge to do what they're calling a wellness check, but what they're really doing is they're doing a search for, they want to get around the search and seizure laws in the United States. That's a meme here. And Australians have accused police in the area of doing that. And it's become a joke on the internet. I understand that. But this is a person who had a heart attack last year, who was missing since October something, incommunicado, and basically hiding out at his brother's house. And a shooting occurred. I do not believe that the police went out of their way to create some fake situation for it. Combining that together with Gareth's, I'm going to just say flat out paranoia. Again, this is all second and third hand cut and paste from the social media or wherever he posted. We don't have it. And no one's offering to give us the links, and they're probably all dusted and dead. If anybody have them, put in like Facebook and then the name he was under or the ID code. Don't put it in with .com or anything so it won't get flagged. And maybe I can look into this. But what information we have right now is this. If you're a homesteader or an independent-minded person or whatever, and especially if you're an evangelical, because this has a strong tendency of causing this kind of behavior, potentially in evangelicals, and if you're a QAnon follower, which these people probably seem to have been, including the lady, by the way, if you have a tendency towards that, I want you to understand this. You can bring about your own end by reacting to things that aren't happening. Now, I want to point out that all of these individuals were at a hunk of dirt that would be considered, in my mind, almost ideal to prevent anything like this from being able to happen. I'm evaluating this now based on, again, I'm not encouraging or glorifying anything harmful to anyone. And that will be ignored by Google because they flagged me at one point for a video that didn't even exist. Okay, so I don't believe this is going to help. I want you to understand that. What can we learn from this? Number one, the very obvious thing, don't fire upon police. Just don't. Next, if you have a homestead or a hunk of property, make sure that you have a safe room that can't get bullets in it. Make sure you put up speakers and microphones on the outside of the building saying, I'm afraid you're going to hurt me. I'm not leaving until you disarm and leave. I will come out naked if you want, but don't hurt me. Because if you're not hurt or dead, you have everything. Again, almost $100,000 hunk of property, everything they needed in the world. Were they afraid the police were going to show up and burn it all down and then leave them standing there? They had a nest egg put away in a bank. She said so before she left last year as a teacher. All of them had everything to gain by doing nothing. And again, all the police would have had to say is, yeah, at the door, yeah, we're just checking on Nathaniel. He had a heart attack last year and he hasn't been seen or heard from since October. Trying to check on him. And he could have just walked out, I'm here, I'm fine. I got over the heart attack, I'm taking my meds, I'm okay. They might have said, well, we want to search the place. And now we get to the next problem. In the state of, in the country of Australia, in the Queensland state or province or whatever you want to call it, there are rules that say if you're caught with a bunch of firearms, you're going to go to prison. I haven't read that part of it because everybody's playing up whatever it is they want for spin doctoring. Now we're going to bring up the next thing. In the United States, a firearm is the lower receiver. Having extra barrels or all the other parts except the lower receiver isn't a firearm. It can't be a firearms charge if it's just pieces to add to the gun you have. Most people who get caught with a large number of firearms are either selling them and trading them or plotting some terrible thing, or they just have extra parts laying around because they want to be able to change out the upper for a completely different cartridging. So they can just have one gun that can fire dozens of different cartridges. It's a design I have in my head, and I've actually looked up some. I can build something like that. But it's only one receiver, and I'll register it. I don't care. The point is, and this is a very important one, I can't see any reason for this to have occurred unless they were absolutely terrified of being found with a bunch of firearms, which means the owner of the property, the lady and the guy, would have been it. The only thing I can see that instigated this was the damn internet. Now, seriously, if I had $100,000 worth of dirt, a building on it, and everything taken care of, I would put every firearm I had, all the parts, on a rack visible from outside saying, you want to see what I have? There it is. Search the place if you want to. I'm naked. You can't shoot a man who's naked because I can't be a threat unless you're worried about. And that's it. Part of making failure impossible, or as impossible as possible, is looking at what causes these incidents. What caused this incident was recently Gareth becoming paranoid. But ultimately it could have been his upbringing, or it could have just been going stir crazy out in the middle of nowhere, which should have been his solitude, may have become his own personal hell. But then again, it may have been all three of them. I don't know. Neither do any of you yet. Thank you for watching. Have a good day. Good luck with that. And no, I'm not glorifying violence, and I'm not encouraging this stuff. I'm telling everybody, this could have been you. It could have been your friends. It could have been anybody.